Yeah, g'day, I'm Rama from RHD. Today I want to show you how to set up and install the LS3 ITB kit that has the drive-by-wire. There's a few little tricks to that. So I'll first show you around the kit. Obviously we've got a front linkage here. There's a bottom linkage here that goes through to the actuator at the back. The actuator is a genuine GM throttle body, so the connector is a direct fit, and once you set up the ECU, it can talk to this throttle body without too much trouble. While we're back here, I'll show you, gosh, this fitting here is for the brake booster, and down inside here we have a vacuum block. You can see this little fitting here is for the map sensor, and this is for any other vacuum lines that the car may need to run. A couple of things just to point out to begin with is this kit should come pre-assembled, so whatever you do, don't adjust these levers here. They're preset with a jig to the right position, so whatever you do, don't upset those. The length of these is basically correct, so again, don't adjust these other than what's needed for the balancing later on. And the same with the position of pretty much all these levers. When these levers come all the way to the top like this, the throttles just come all the way closed, and that's the way it's supposed to be. And then when they go to the bottom, obviously the throttles are open. So they're all the way closed, and that's normal for them to sit at that partially open position. So a couple of other things to note. The kit probably doesn't have the original rail when it arrives. To fit that rail, you will need to take these two throttles off here and here to sit that in. It's ideal if you don't adjust these too much. They're a little bit tricky to get back in. You sort of have to rotate them in and out. But that way, when you put it back together, these have been preset, so they're roughly balanced out of the box, so it should start and run okay. The other thing to look for is sometimes the rail, you can see in this case, is very close to that shaft and can sometimes even press on it a little bit. The rail does move reasonably easily, so sometimes you might just need to give it a little persuasion. A little bit more. I'm going to see now we've got about a nice 1 millimeter gap between the rail and the shaft, so that's all I needed. The next thing that needs to happen to actually start the installation is loosen off all the braces. It needs to equalize on the heads to sit in the right position, so we'll just loosen off all these. Okay, the important one is the little one at the back that holds the actuator. So just loosen these off. So this allows the kit to sort of flex around a little bit and for all the bolt holes to line up correctly. It can actually just move a little bit like this, which is exactly what we want. So it can settle into place and all the bolt holes line up. So once we get to that stage, it's ready to set on the car. Make sure we have the O-rings in the manifold face. Okay, a couple other little things to note is once you reinstall these throttles after putting the fuel rail in, if you are using this fuel rail, the factory one, is make sure that these little adjusters are assembled correctly. The little tab wedges between the screw and the spring, and that's the correct assembly for those. We'll need to use those later when it comes time to match all the flow balance of the throttles. The last thing to talk about is these little bungs. The kits have an option to run injectors in the high port or the low port position. The high port bung holes are 14 millimeter, which is your sort of standard injector size, whereas the LS3 has a 15 millimeter O-ring on the bottom. So your kit should come with two sets of bungs, and you can choose which one you're going to use. If you're using the injectors at the top, that works particularly well with alcohol-based fuels, E85, things like that. We've seen some quite good gains in horsepower by moving the injectors up. With standard fuel, we found the gains were quite minimal. But you've always got that option. You can run them both or run one or the other. That's entirely up to your preference at the time.
Okay, so we've got it sitting in place. First thing to do is to just get all the bolts started. So we want to screw them in, but don't do them down tight just yet. Just leave them up a tiny bit until you get them all in. Okay, so now we're ready for the first start. The tune in the ECU hasn't been changed for a throttle body tune yet, so what will happen is the engine will start, but it'll probably flare up to 3,000 revs. That's perfectly normal. Okay, so we'll hit the starter and I'll show you what's normally. Okay, so you can see it was sitting at about 3,000. Now that's normal. Now we're ready to change the tune over and we can see how it idles then. Okay, so our right's complete. We should be good to start. Okay, so we'll try and start it up. Okay, you can see there it was idling at more respectable RPM. It's a bit rough and fluttery, but that's mostly because the throttles are not balanced. So the next thing we need to do is go and synchronize all the throttles, and it should be idling nicely.